Hello, and thanks for clicking on this video. If you've seen my previous videos, you probably know I'm pretty into short scale basses. And where it all started for me was the Fender Mustang bass. I had previously made a video chronicling my journey through short scale basses. If you're interested in seeing that, please see the link below. And this is one of my first ones, and I've modified it to suit my needs. I've rewired the pickups, different bridge, but this is kind of where it all started for me, the Fender Mustang bass. But I've put flat wounds on this, and with a different bridge and with rewired pickups. I got the request from a friend of mine to say, why don't you compare this with other Mustangs, because maybe not everyone wants to put flat wounds on it, or maybe some people want to use the bridge pickup. So what I have in store for you today are 3 Mustang basses we can contrast and compare, and hopefully we can examine the sonic differences these 3 can provide. So let's get started with my red Mustang here. I only have the bridge pickup wired. I've completely disconnected the bridge pickup, and the switch doesn't do anything. I have this strung with Tomastic Infeld flat wounds, 100 to 43. And this is how I like to run the bass. I typically run the volume wide open and the tone knob about 50%, so halfway open. And what I was going for with this bass was a woody, vintage sounding, thumpy bass tone. And let me demonstrate that for you. So that's with the tone at 50%. Let me roll it all the way off, and I'll play the same thing. So that's far too muddy, and I find I lose a lot of articulation with the tone rolled all the way off. Here's with the tone wide open, so all the way up. So that's a little too clanky for my taste, and how I want this bass to sound is just a tad too bright and aggressive for me. So back to 50%. So I think that's kind of where I like to have this bass sit. But that's very much subjective taste, and maybe you want to have different sounds out of your Mustang. So let's try another one. I should mention that my red Mustang was from the first generation. So that's when they first came out. I changed the pickguard on it, but otherwise that came with a rosewood board. Now, the latest offerings from the Fender Mustang line, you can have an option of a POW ferro board. They don't make the rosewoods anymore, from what I understand. You can also get versions with a glossy maple fingerboard as well. And they come in a whole bunch of different finishes now. So this is from the latest generation. It's kind of the gold sparkle finish. This has the POW ferro fingerboard. Both of these pickups are connected on this bass. So the story with this bass belongs to a friend of mine. So thanks very much to Bruce for lending me your gold sparkle Mustang. Really appreciate it. where this came about is Bruce knew I was into short scale basses, but we really never had a chance to connect or talk much about it. And it was a purely by chance running into each other at the local Long McQuaid. And he knew I had my Mustang, and he knew that I loved it, and he was interested in checking out a Mustang. So what we ended up doing, purely by chance and by accident, is we had 3 or 4 different Mustangs. We took them all off the wall and we put them head to head. And this was the one that by far came out on top. And I gotta say, in the store, it came pretty close to sounding like what I liked out of a Mustang. So he decided on this one, and he took it home that day. So here's this bass. Let's start with the neck pickup. Volume all the way up, tone all the way down. Again, pretty woolly. I should add, these are also flat wounds. I think they're D'Addarios because you have the colored balls. I always thought the chromes had a more royal blue type colored silk. These are a little more kind of light aqua. They look different. I don't know if D'Addario has changed the color of their silk windings or not. If you know, comments below, please. Here's again neck pickup, but let's roll the tone up to 50. So apples to apples, this bass has quite a bit more kind of string noise, high-end fret noise, and a peakier mid-range compared to my Tomastic strung Mustang, just on the neck pickup. Let's roll the tone all the way up. Wide open. So again, just like my bass, is a little clankier than what I would like it to be. So it's hard to really compare fingerboard versus fingerboard because we have different strings. We have a different bridge. This is the stock Fender bridge that comes with the newest generation of Mustangs. But hopefully you can hear through the audio that this bass overall just has more mid-range and is quite a bit brighter than mine. But that could very well all just come down to the strings. Where I think this demonstration might be useful to you as a viewer is this bridge J pickup is connected. So let's hear what that sounds like with the tone in the middle. I think 50% on these Mustangs is, I think, the sweet spot for me. So let's roll the switch to middle. So this is both pickups now. That could be a usable sound, I think. With the tone all the way up. A little clanky for me. Let's roll it back to 50. Now, the bridge alone position, I don't think is a usable tone for me. It's quite a bit too thin and nasal for me. But here we go. Bridge only. I'm trying to keep my hand position consistent throughout this entire playing demo. But as you can hear, the tone lacks bass. I think where this bass likes to sit best is the neck pickup, tone 50%. These strings feel a bit on the stiff side for me and how I like my string tension, but it sounds pretty good on this bass, I think. All right, so that's the Gold Sparkle Mustang. Now this bass actually used to belong to me. And this came from my friend Wes. So thank you, Wes, for lending me my old bass. When I was uploading my video about all my other short scale basses, I realized I had made a glaring omission. And that was this bass. And the story about this is a made in Japan Fender Mustang. My guess would be it's from the early 90s, would be my guess, but don't quote me on that. How this bass came about was I liked my red Mustang so much, I wanted to find a companion for it. So I can have one strung with flats and one strung with round wounds. So this is how I got this bass. Now there are a few little quirky things about these. Unlike the vintage American Fender Mustangs, these have a 1.5 inch nut width. So like these Mustangs and like a jazz bass. But they are slightly smaller than what the American vintage ones were, which I think were 1.6 and change. Smaller than the 1.75 inch precision bass, but bigger than the 1.5 jazz bass. The neck's also slightly rounder in terms of profile. This has a rosewood board, classic beautiful Olympic white red tort combo, and it has the more vintage style Mustang bridge here. Again, completely passive, just volume tone, but these pickups are more reminiscent of the vintage American ones. So they're smaller. The pickup casing is rounded here, and they sound different. I think they sound a little more narrow, a little more aggressive. They have a different kind of bite to it compared to the precision type pickups in these. This has Fender branded round wound nickel strings on it, and they haven't been changed in several years, so they actually have a nice played in round wound sound to them. Let's turn this on. So here's the made in Japan Fender Mustang. Let's try tone all the way off first, and there's only one pickup, so there's nothing to select. Tone about 50%. And then tone wide open. So even with round wound strings, I think the tone wide open on this bass, for me, is a more usable sound than the tone knobs rolled up on these two. It just has a more pleasant top end to it. And that may be due to the difference in pickups. It's entirely possible that these Mustang style pickups just have a more pleasant high end, even with the tone rolled all the way up. Another factor may be the bridge. You just have a much larger metal plate here, and maybe that affects how the strings vibrate the body and activate the body. The other difference is, like the vintage American Mustangs, these are stringed through. So every little piece of the bass contributes to its tone, good or bad. And I think in this bass, tone all the way up, it's a pretty usable tone, and you can play some kind of rock and roll, indie rock with it. I think that's a great sound. These are all 4-bolt bolt-on necks. They all have very similar vintage style open gear tuners in the back. And they're all kind of in the same weight range. My red one clocks in at 7.5 pounds. This, if my memory serves me correctly, was just shy of 8. The gold one feels the heaviest of the three, but it's still going to be under 9 pounds. So if weight is an issue for you, then any of these would be, on the lighter weight side, and it can help you get through the night. All right, but basses are only useful in how well they sound in the context of a song, and how well they interact and blend in with other instruments. So what I've prepared for you today is a track that I'm going to record all 3 basses to, and hopefully you can hear how the differences in strings, the differences in pickups, and in the case of the gold bass, the difference in pickup selection can make a pretty dramatic difference in how a bass sits in the context of a song. So this is kind of an original bass groove of mine. I have previously used it, superimposed another tune on top of it, but maybe one day I'll flesh it out and turn it into a full song. For today's demonstration, I've also enlisted the help of one of my saxophone playing friends, Mr. Andrew Fennell. So he plays the solo on this track today. So how it starts out is relatively sparse instrumentation, so you can hear how the bass is in there. And then with a saxophone solo on top, you can hear how it blends in with more instruments involved. Hope you enjoyed the track. Hope you enjoyed this video. Take care now.